Last, Laz, good, bad, now, two. Love it or hate it, Sujin's a pretty looking map. Of course, the first thing I did was bang the gong. I had a pretty good run with heavy. It turns out I was the only one attempting to cap. Great. With almost no help from my team, we lost the first round. However, KOF is a game mode of 3 rounds, and there were 2 more left if Blue won this round. It was a slog to even get to the point. I did manage to capture once as a demo with the help of a few others, but just as quickly lost it. This was followed by a death, after death, after death, after death, after death. Trying to make one more push, but by then my team was either rage quitting or had just joined to replace the rage quitters. I blew up a sentry and that was it. Red won, Blue lost. Sujin's still on the list. Yep, more Sujin. I was on another team doing quite poorly. With Blue less than a minute from winning the first round, I went scout to see if I could cap, but instead decided to focus on taking out their tellies because I didn't know what else to do. I died and my team lost. No big surprise. I went back to demo spam for the second round. I tend to be the strongest at demo for some reason. That being said, I wasn't doing very well this round. The running theme of this round was being killed by sentries I couldn't take out for whatever reason. It wasn't long before my team lost again, and I lost Sujin twice. Next up was Bad Water, hopefully with less racism this time.
Because it sounds as though you're not worried. You want to miss them just low testosterone whites who hates themselves?
We had a really clean push to the first point. Red backed down fairly quickly. They dug their heels in a bit towards the second point though, so I'll give them that. After we pushed past the second point, Red kind of vanished. Maybe they're getting ready for a big defense on the final point. Well, not really. I got backstabbed, but before I could get back, Blue pushed all the way to the end. Bad Water was done. Now I just have to play defense. I think Red, now Blue, had a rage quit wave, as their players were not very organized. I managed to get a few taps with the Uber Sword before I pushed my luck a little too hard. I actually felt bad for Blue. I was getting kills as a medic. I mostly focused on keeping my teammate alive like a good med, but still, I got kills as a medic. As a final bit of shade, I started dancing on the cart. Shout out to the Soli who tried a last minute touch to the cart. I respect that. And with that, Bad Water is done. It was my first encounter with Well, and it was to capture the flag version. I believe CTF Well was the first map added to the game after release. CP Well was there at launch, but CTF Well was added a few months after. My team was one cap down from the other team, so it was a light uphill battle. I played around a bit as a direct hit Soli until I gave up and went with the original for that yummy splash damage. While I was waiting to respawn, a scout evened out the score. We had a Dalek on the mic trying to communicate.
Shut the fuck up.
And there were some accusations of bots that I could not confirm. Blue got another cap and got a lead again. Me and some other players put our asses into gear and pushed into Blue's base. To my surprise, there was no defense.
They have nothing defending the intel.
We have taken the enemy intelligence.
I nabbed their intel and went back to my base with almost no resistance. It turns out the opposite team was in our base instead of their own. I got a sneaky luck crit on this group and went the long route over the top. The score was now even. The next cap would win this map.
Easy cap.
Emo.
Oh, you know the spot.
Scout coming behind you, Arrow.
Oh, that one's a spy.
Once again, there was no defense. Me and a pyro just dicked around a bit while someone on blue was being salty. This suddenly turned into a friendly game and I was worried I'd have to leave. Fortunately, some people are killjoys.
The enemy intelligence.
Oh, snap.
I went back to pick up the intel, but a scout beat me to it.
Our intelligence has returned to our base.
It wasn't long before the round was over and Red had won. CTF well is off the list. Only 2 more CTF maps are left. Once again I returned to the Groot. I tried the Zatuichi strategy again as a soldier, just as the gates opened. I only moved out when the last point had no capture time on it. There was only really one demo using the Zatuichi, and they were having a lot better luck than me. I actually really like how much of a bloodbath the final point of the Groot is. It's a nice, stupid but fun bloodbath. It wasn't long before my team won, and the Groot was finally able to be crossed off. Yay! No attacking round this time, however. Still counts as a join halfway through a game. I joined a game of Banana Bay just as Red was going to cap. Conveniently, I was on Red as well. Blue had a really good sniper, so I tried playing my least favorite class to counter my least favorite class. I used the PP gun because it amuses me. I then went scout to see if I could sneak behind. I did take out a sentry but was still getting covered by the sniper. I caved in and went Baguette Boy to try and counter the sniper, but instead was countered by an engineer this time. Red was doing well, but Blue kept fighting back. Sadly, despite the massive head start, Blue managed to push the car over and win the first round. I was still getting sniped, so I went airstrike soldier for some reason. Can't remember why. I then gave up on that and went for a black box and conch cheese loadout. I managed to get a revenge kill on the sniper just before getting killed by another sniper. While I was dead, my team pushed the cart on the tracks just in time.
Come on, push it. Push it. Yes. Here it comes. Big kaboom. Good work.
Putting the score at 1-1. One round was needed to win. I I went Hybrid Knight because I thought he might work well with Banana Bay's tight corners, and I was kinda right. My team fell behind a bit but caught up pretty quickly. I got killed a few more times but Red kept pushing, and by the end we had pushed the car all the way to the end again. Banana Bay is off the list.
Oh, well done. Good game. Good game.
Now it was time for a round of Borneo. I was defending as Red around the start of a new game. Blue was getting close to the first point. After a good bit of defense, some bots joined. Blue capped the first point shortly after this.
No, don't cap. Not too late.
I don't think the bots did anything, however, so I just kind of ignored it. I did get this pretty nasty donk knock. God, what was I writing? I did get this pretty nasty donk knockback on an Uber.
Yeah, dude, and Ross, when you got I forgot what it's called. The cannonball thing. Loose cannon, that's it. Loose cannon.
I made a whole video series about this. What was I writing when I made this? I made a whole video series about why I forgot what it's called. What did I write? I made a whole video series about why did I forget what it is. Alright, I think the rest of the script's legible. We pushed Blue all the way back to the final point. I also contributed one of the sickest combo kills I've ever seen.
Oh, that shot.
Nice.
Yo, he just got fucking wrecked!
That was sick. Oh, got a spy.
I then proceeded to get shot by a medic. I kinda deserved that, to be fair. It felt like Blue kinda gave up after a while. Maybe they had a lot of rage quitters. It didn't look like their team was short. It wasn't long before Borneo was won, meaning I could cross it off the list.
Good job. Good job.
First though, I was on attack. We had this sniper on our team acting a little bit sus. I don't know if it was a bot or a player just with crappy hacks, or it could just be someone messing around with blinds, but something was up. I kept an eye on them while I could.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I then proceeded to get the most BS Matador stab I've ever received.
The bloody car is not moving!
Really?
This Awoo guy was not really doing anything for a bit before moving, so I think they may have been hacking. I hope not, or that'll mean my Borneo win was not legit. I kept playing regardless. I took out a sentry nest behind the shack, and after that I just missed pushing the cart over the first point.
Ah, I see. Oh, that's no more.
Good enough.
We kept pushing and pushing with minimal resistance. Normally around the second point is when the defense kicks in, but there was almost none. At the final point there was only one sentry I dealt with swiftly.
Sentry.
Where is it? There it is.
There's a sentry.
And it's down.
Victory.
And then Borneo was Dunio. I felt a bit iffy about this win due to the bot presence on my team, but I'll decide later if I need to replay this map. Now we're up to 5 Gorge, the 5 CP version of Gorge. Blue was not attacking at all.
Let's go. Quick cap. Yes, I am.
Wow, that was quick. Now to do it again. Blue finally put up a defense.
Wow, it's very quick.
And before I could even reach the last 2 points, they were capped him. 5 Gorge was won! Bit of a cheap round, but hey, that's just how it is sometimes. The last map for this run was Snowy Coast. I joined on red towards the last 2 points on a game. It was bleak. I knew it was over, so I just dicked around as a hybrid knight with a Cladimiumra. I think I said that right. Double donk was still life. Dang, it's always the medic. Well, anyway, before I could even defend, blue capped and it was over. Luckily, it's a game of 2 rounds, and now it was our turn to attack. I went soldier with the Liberty launcher for some reason. It didn't happen. I then tried the direct hit, and it was not happening either. It was getting hairy. It took a mighty effort, but eventually blue capped the first point and began pushing harder. Towards the final point, there was some opposition, but red started to rage quit. Teams became bounced towards the end of the map, but it was too late. And with that, Snowy Coast was done. Next time, Thunder on the Mountain. It's Swiftwater again. Powerhouse. And Harvest is in there somewhere.
Woo! Thanks, Pally. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Hold point.